moved on to one of our favorite sections of the grocery store, the seafood section. Seafood is one of those foods that a lot of people don't eat enough of, but should definitely eat more. The American Heart Association actually recommends eating 12 ounces of seafood per week.
Is that 2 to 3 servings per week?
It's about 2 to 3 servings if you're looking at about a 3 or 4 ounce serving of fish. So just like the produce section we talked about, you want to make sure you're eating a variety. And look at the variety available here. We have wild salmon, we have cod, catfish, scallops. All of these are beneficial. And you want to make sure you're getting them on a regular basis. One of the primary benefits of fish are something called omega-3 fats, which can help reduce the risk of diseases like heart disease, rheumatoid arthritis, Alzheimer's disease, stroke, and a number of others.
So fish that are rich in omega-3 fats include things that are cold water fish, such as salmon or tuna. Particularly canned light tuna is what you'd want to focus on because it's lower in mercury. Other examples would be sardines, oysters, anchovies, striped bass. So there's a number of different types of fish that you can get that are high and rich in omega-3 fats in those fish products.
And the benefit with fish doesn't just end at the omega-3 fats. Also a great source of protein, zinc, iron, and a number of other nutrients. Now, one concern a lot of people have is the mercury. And some fish are higher in mercury than others. So as you can see on the slide we have on the screen, you can see some of the fish that are better sources of omega-3 fats that are also lower in mercury. So those are the types of fish you want to concentrate on when you're trying to include them in your diet.
And here we have another great source of protein and other nutrients, the meat section.
And meat includes anything from red meat like beef, chicken, turkey, sausage. So let's talk about some of them in detail.
You know, I know many people believe that ground turkey is much better than ground beef, but that's really not the case, is it?
No, absolutely not. You have to be very careful. And what we talked about earlier about reading food labels, that goes the same for meats as well.
You know, when I first learned that oftentimes you have to look for ground turkey breast rather than just lean ground turkey, I was really shocked. The fat difference between these two is substantially different.
Exactly. And what happens is with the ground, when it just says lean ground turkey, that's actually the dark meat, the white meat, and the skin ground in together, as opposed to the turkey breast, which is the leanest cut, just ground up. So when you're shopping for turkey or ground turkey or chicken, make sure you look for the turkey or chicken breast.
Yeah, the actual ground turkey itself has nearly 7 grams more fat per serving than the lean ground turkey breast. So definitely keep your eye out for ground turkey breast only.
And let's look at the ground beef as well. And you have all different varieties. It tells the percent fat on the label. So I just picked up 2 here. And this one is 80% lean and 20% fat versus this one, which is 4% fat. And the difference in fat content, there's 23 grams of fat in the one that has 20% fat versus only 4 grams in the one that's 4% fat. So that would be a much better option when you're going to make meatloaf or hamburgers or something along those lines. Look for the leanest cuts, and it will tell you the leaner cuts on the label.
And here's a tip for when you take that meat at home. If you're mixing it in with something that has some type of flavoring, for example, you're making seasoned tacos or something like that, you can also, after you cook the meat, drain it in hot water to rinse off some additional fat from that meat product. When you're adding the seasoning, you won't lose some of the flavor because you're adding that in with the seasoning packet.
And now while meats like we talked about have great nutrients like protein and zinc and others, there's also meats that are maybe not as the best choices. Things like sausage, bratwurst, much higher in fat. So those are the foods that you should limit your intake of. The ones we mentioned, great source on a regular basis or weekly, but limit the ones that are real high in fat. As I'm walking down this aisle, you notice the nutrition facts label above the meat section, which is fantastic, trying to do something to educate consumers. Now you can see up here, chicken breast is the highest on the list because that's the lowest in fat out of the other sources included. And chicken breast is a great, boneless, skinless chicken breast is a great option. You can grill it, bake it, broil it, to have a low-fat, heart-healthy protein source in your diet. Add it to salads and make stir-fry. Lots of other nutrients come from chicken breast. Another great option is something like pork chops. Pork is very low in fat as well. Again, can be cooked the same way as chicken. Just make sure you look for some unique recipes. Magazines and the internet can give you that, and make it different ways to enjoy it with your whole family. Again, it's a heart-healthy food that can be enjoyed on a regular basis. We've talked about seafood, we've talked about chicken, meat, pork, and other great sources of protein. But here, eggs actually one of the best sources of protein in the entire grocery store. It's a complete source of protein, meaning it has all the essential amino acids, and it's also very inexpensive. Eggs are fantastic for you, both the egg yolks and the egg whites. The egg yolks have a lot of nutrients that we haven't discussed, vitamin E, choline, and other nutrients that are great for you. So definitely include some eggs on a regular basis. Nice thing about this is it's a great way to add some additional vegetables to your diet. Make an omelet in the morning with some handfuls of spinach and other vegetables that we discussed earlier. Egg yolks got a bad rap not too long ago because they are slightly higher in fat, but the fact of the matter is American Heart Association actually came out and said that eggs are okay to eat on a regular basis. So if you have high cholesterol levels, talk to your doctor, but in general, eggs are a fantastic food for you. Another option here, more for convenience than anything, are something like this, prepackaged eggs in a container. So all these essentially are they take the fat out of the eggs. These are egg whites, and you could use those for convenience. Again, great source of protein. You're not getting all the nutrients that you would with the whole egg, but for convenience, this definitely wins. We're on to the final section of the perimeter of the grocery store, the dairy section. And as you can see here, there's a whole different variety of milks. Whole milk, 2%, 1%, all the way down to fat-free milk. You know, the main difference between the types of milk is actually just the fat content and the calorie content. They all offer a lot of nutrients, vitamins, minerals such as calcium, vitamin D, vitamin A, and protein. Again, the main difference is the fat and the calorie content. So ideally, what we always suggest is looking for the lower fat options, the 1% or the fat-free milk.
You know, one thing that people oftentimes will say is that they don't want to change from a whole or 2% milk to these lower calorie options because they don't like the consistency that that product offers. So a number of different manufacturers out there now offer a product. This one is called Fat Free Plus, but you might see something known as Super Skim or Skim Plus. And what they do is they take a thickener to the milk and they keep so they add the thickener to the skim milk, keeping the calories and the fat content identical to skim milk, but doesn't have that same watery consistency that skim milk offers. And so by doing that, it makes it seem as though you're drinking 2% milk, but it's actually a skim milk product.
That's great for weight loss clients.
It is.
And here's another option that's getting more popular, soy milk. And soy is just becoming more popular over the last few years. It's an alternative to the actual dairy beverage, particularly if you're allergic to dairy. It does offer the same nutrients because it is fortified with the same nutrients milk is. Has a slightly different flavor, but a lot of people like that unique flavor. There actually has been some data to show that it may actually benefit those with potentially heart disease. So this is just another option to give it a try next time you're at the grocery store. We mentioned doing 90% of your shopping around the perimeter of the grocery store. This is one of the aisles, the cereal aisle, that a lot of time people do spend some time in though, particularly if you have children. You can see there's hundreds of varieties of options here. And it's a big difference, just like with the bread aisle we talked about, where carbohydrates, there's a big difference in quality. Same thing with cereal. There's high sugar, low fiber, or no fiber cereals, and there's also much better options, like this product here, for example. Half a cup is one serving, and that gives you 7 grams of fiber. That's fantastic. And the same rule of thumb applies for cereals as it does for breads. We suggest that for every one serving, you aim for at least 3 grams or more of fiber per serving. Some products have much more than that, like this, which I mentioned has 7. Also look at the ingredient list. Are there any trans fats or hydrogenated oils on the food label? So make sure you read labels and make smart decisions for your children and yourselves.
And speaking of children, one of the things to keep in mind is that your children, the cereals that are placed at their eye level are also being marketed toward them. So those are going to be higher sugar, usually more expensive cereals at children's height, and then the healthier options are going to be available on the top shelf of the cereal aisle. So one thing to keep in mind is that you just don't want to grab the first cereal that you see, and maybe even consider not taking your children down the cereal aisle if they're likely to be very insistent on the type of cereal they get to have.
And if you do want to compromise and maybe give them a treat, one option is to buy a sweeter sugar cereal with a less sweet sugar cereal and mix them together. So you're not giving the child, you're giving them some nutrients, but also pleasing their appetite as well.